Hi friends! I know it's been a super long time since I posted on YouTube. I am not going to show you a full demo for a whole crochet project today. What I'm going to show you is an answer to a question I get in my Etsy messages sometimes. It's for a pattern I sell there. It's this super cute crocheted heart-shaped cake. It's delightful for all occasions. But the one part that seems to confuse people for some reason is this what I call shell piping, or like a bobble stitch icing. And I'm not quite sure exactly what is confusing about it because no one sends me photos. What I think is interesting is the written pattern is actually super easy and straightforward, and maybe that's what people aren't trusting. So instead of saying, I don't have a video, I thought I would finally make a video. And if you haven't purchased this particular pattern, if you want to try it on a free project, I use a very similar, although slightly different bobble stitch icing on a free pattern that's on my blog for a chiffon cake with fruit. Whatever kind of cake-shaped project you're making, it's one of my favorite ways to represent icing. I'm using a worsted weight yarn and an H-hook as per usual. You can do this with whatever yarn that you prefer. If you're going to sew your icing on later, I would give yourself about an arm length of yarn for sewing. If you're going to glue this on, which I'm totally not opposed to, you don't need to leave an extra long tail. Now the cool thing about this pattern is you don't have to guesstimate or predetermine a length of chains to go around your cake. We're going to make each set of bobbles as we go, and you can measure a length of bobbles afterward, and it's really easy to adjust because you can either add more bobbles or pull some out to get the correct length that you need. We're going to start with a chain 2, so I'll put a slip knot on my hook and then chain 2, 1, 2. I should mention that for this it's really helpful if you're familiar with how to do a treble crochet. We'll get to that point. Okay, so row 1 is skip the first chain from your hook and then work a single crochet into that second chain. Row 1, easy, super small. Okay, row 2 is chain 4 and turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll turn. Now I feel like this is what might be confusing. This is the single crochet that we made in row 1, and we're going to work everything in row 2 in this one single crochet. Everything in row 2 is 2 bobble stitches. I'm going to show you how to work the bobble. Again, this is a treble crochet bobble, and each bobble is comprised of 4 partially completed treble crochets. To begin, you'll yarn over twice, insert your hook into that single crochet from row 1, yarn over and pull through 1, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and stop there. You want to work the treble crochet up until the last pull through. That's your first partial treble, and we're going to work 3 more, all in this same stitch. Yarn over twice, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. Here's the beginning of the 3rd treble. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. You can see there's my chain. Here's 3 partial trebles, and I need to work 1 more. Yarn over twice, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. You should have 5 loops on your hook at this point, and to complete the bobble, you'll yarn over and pull through all those loops. That is 1 bobble complete, and you're going to do all of that again in the same exact single crochet. So I'm going to start my next bobble. Yarn over twice, insert my hook into the exact same stitch as before, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. There's my first partial, the second, 3rd, 4th. I have 5 loops on my hook, so I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 5. So what you've done is kind of made this little cup. And you might be wondering, why don't you just make a bauble with 8 trebles in it instead of 2 that have 4 each? That's totally up to you. You can give it a try. I find that a bit cumbersome. I find that with patterns, we all make little adjustments that we prefer. We're all different. We're all going to prefer different things. So a lot of times there's no right and wrong. If you get the look that you want, that is correct. For row 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn. In the previous row, in row 2, we made 2 baubles, so that means we made 2 stitches. Here's the top of the first bauble, and here's the top of the second bauble. I think that might be confusing too. We made so many treble crochets, people are probably like, how many stitches were in row 2? Just 2, because you just made 2 baubles. We only completed 2 stitches. So for row 3, I'm going to skip the first bauble and work a single crochet into the second one. Okay, so row 3, or all the odd rows, will just have that 1 single crochet. You're going to keep alternating rows 2 and 3, 2 and 3, 2 and 3 until you have the length of icing that you want. So here I'm going to start my next even row, which is row 4. Remember, all the even rows will be baubles and all the odd rows will just be skip 1 stitch and single crochet. So I'm going to repeat row 2 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, turn. Remember, I only have 1 stitch from the previous row. That's the single crochet, and that is this stitch right here. It can be a little hard to see depending how tightly you're working, but that's the stitch that's at the base of the chains I just created. And then I'm going to start working my treble crochet bauble again in that 1 single crochet from the previous row. I know I'm going kind of fast now, but I don't want this to be a super long and boring video. Again, it's helpful. I'm starting the second bauble here. If you're already familiar with treble crochet, and I'm sure there are tons of tutorials on YouTube that will teach you how to do that. Here's my last bauble. To start my next odd row, I'm going to chain 1, turn, skip the first stitch or the first bauble, and single crochet in the second one. You can see I have 2 fun little lumpy bumpies here. And for my next even row, or my next bauble row, it's chain 4, 2, 3, 4, turn. At the base of my chains, here's my single crochet stitch that I just made. I'm going to work my 2 baubles. Here's 1 bauble. And in the same stitch, the second bauble. Oops. Bauble's complete. Chain 1, turn, skip the first bauble, single crochet into the second bauble. So 3 sets right now. Another thing I'll mention is you get to decide which side of the bauble you prefer the look of. Right now I'm looking at the back of my stitches, but as you go, you could also pop these the other side out. And this is what the right side of the stitches look like. I usually pop them out. I usually prefer the look of the right side of the stitches rather than the wrong side, but this is totally your personal preference. So keep alternating the single crochet row with your baubles until you have a length that you think is about enough to go around your cake or whatever project you're working on, and then I'm going to show you how I like to sew these on. I am not going to take the time to make a full length of baubles. I've just made, what, like 7 here? And the reason why I like the sewing tail on this end is because I can leave this end live, and if I need to add more or subtract, it's really easy. So I'm just going to pull my hook out and leave this. I mean, obviously for this cake I would need to add more, but we're just going to pretend that you actually made a bunch of baubles to go around your cake. And this is the end that has my long tail. It's really helpful to use pins, and what I like about styrofoam cake forms is you can pin right in, and I would just start pinning to the edge. I don't actually have a cake I'm working on right now. I would not put this bobble on this cake, but it's one that I have laying around that has some room for this demo. And you don't have to pin every bobble, just pin in a way that keeps these secure. Whatever makes you comfortable. You can pin every bobble if you want. I'm just gonna stick a couple in here. You don't want to stretch this out too much, because if you sew it down all stretched out, it's gonna want to contract and it might warp your project. You want to thread the end of your yarn on a tapestry needle or a yarn needle. And I would remove your first pin, and you can anchor this end with a stitch into your cake. I would then go back into the tip of this frosting, not in the exact same spot, but in like one stitch over. And I'm going through both layers, both the pink and the green layer, traveling underneath the bobble and coming back up in between the first and the second bobble. I'll secure my yarn by inserting my needle not into the same spot, but into a spot one stitch over. And I'm inserting through both layers, both the pink and the green. My needle's traveling underneath the green. I'm going to come up between the next two bobbles. And you'll do that all the way around. So again, not back into the same hole, but in one stitch over through both layers. And come back up between the next two bobbles. And in this way, I have a stitch securing this string of bobbles, but I'm not affecting the actual bobble shape because there's no yarn going through this area. So you'd keep going all the way around, stitching in between. Sometimes I'll do 2 stitches, like I'll wrap back and forth for extra security. I don't know if it's necessary. You can play with that and go all the way around. Again, I don't have enough length to go all the way around, but then you would adjust this. Like if you made a good guess, you could then clip this and sew it down and complete it, or, you know, pull out a bobble if you made too much or add more. And yeah, that's it. It's a really cool little pattern, and what I like about it is it's really versatile as far as the length and what the size of your project is. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for a little bit. Some or most of you may know that I do have a full-time job, so I have very limited time to devote to filming and editing YouTube videos. However, I do miss it quite a bit, so if you have any suggestions or requests for projects or patterns of mine in the past that you've seen before and would like a video for, please leave a comment. I would also just love to hear how you're doing, what projects you're working on. I miss y'all, and I hope you have a super fantastic day.